everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome back to another grad interview. I am here with Sara Henderson. Sara is a recent grad of Pretty Focused, and she is going to share all about her experience and why she chose Pretty Focused, like what she's doing, all of the things. And so, if you have any questions, make sure that you post them in the comments. We'll be collecting your questions. And then she'll be able to answer your questions. So you'll be able to talk to a grad in real time, which I think is really valuable for people. So Sara, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, I live in Northern Illinois. So I live in Rockton, which we're about 5 minutes south of the Wisconsin border. So I guess, so I live where the daylight sometimes is our friend in photography and sometimes not in the winter. But I work full-time as a digital marketing director. So I have a lot of experience in marketing. I have 20 years of experience in different marketing aspects. And so, so a little bit about me. I have two girls and love to spend time with them on the weekends when I'm home. So
Nice. How old are they?
They are 13 and 9.
Oh my goodness. I've got boys like right in that age ish, 10 and 11 right now, and almost 12. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a lot of fun. It's getting more busy a lot busier now,
Yes.
but it's a lot of fun. It's a fun age.
Yeah, it is a fun age because you can do so much with them, and so that's awesome. I love that. So do you work at home or is there an office space?
Yes, I work full-time outside of the home. So I'm in the office Monday through Friday.
Okay, very nice. And so you're in digital marketing. What in the world drew you to join a food photography course of all things?
Yeah, the story's a little bit of a winding trail. So I love to bake. I have been a home taught baker since I can remember. I mean, I just love to bake. It's my stress relief. I just love experimenting in the kitchen. And so a couple of years ago, I would say like around the pandemic, I decided that I wanted to make my photos a little bit prettier, and I didn't know exactly what that entailed. I was looking at possibly like food blogging, and I was like, that'd be so cool. I mean, and then I learned how much work was involved, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just like focus on the photography.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in a couple of courses before I had found Pretty Focused and fell in love with the craft of photography. At the time, I only had an iPhone, so I was just learning composition and styling ideas through my other photography classes. And then I actually heard about Pretty Focused from a student in the other classes that said that there's a lot of work out there for bloggers. And so I decided to get in touch with Pretty Focused. So
I love that. So you're going from, should I start a blog? Because I think a lot of people wonder that. Like, should I start a blog? I know, like, that's how I started out, was like, well, you just become a food blogger. Yeah. But I didn't love all the other things. Like, you stare at your screen and you're like, what do I say about this?
Right.
Like, what do I do? But I love the photography. I love the cooking aspect. And then I love being able to take pictures creatively of what I made. So I get that 100%.
Yes.
I love that. So when did you join then?
I joined Pretty Focused, I want to say about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
Because I work full time. And so I was learning the lessons and practicing and things like that on the weekend. So it took me a little bit of time. I was trying to give myself grace because I wanted to really absorb the lessons and really practice and apply the feedback. So it's been a little bit of a time.
Okay.
But it's been great.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you're working full time. The weekends are for your girls. And so you were able to go through at your own pace.
Yes. Which is
huge. Then, not feel that pressure of all of that, you know what I mean? Just getting through in like 3 months or so. You were able to take your time with all of that. So when did you graduate then this year?
I graduated in May, if I remember. I feel like it's been a busy summer, but it was like spring. It was like April or May. Yeah.
Okay. And then you kind of had an interesting story with graduating where your Facebook went down, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's back up and running now.
Yes, we're back. We're back.
You just got up and running,
Yes.
so that's
Yes.
so hard. I remember yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you have that all taken care of now. But let's kind of go back and talk about you were in other photography courses. So were you using an iPhone in those courses, or were you learning how to use a camera?
So I didn't have a camera yet. I didn't have the funding for a camera. And actually, I had a friend of mine gave me her DSLR when I wanted to enroll in this course because it is a prerequisite for this course. And
Mhm.
so the other courses did not require that. And they were great courses, but they were more of like editorial photography. So you learn a lot more of the focus on the composition and things like that. And there wasn't the lighting aspect either. So they didn't offer like the artificial light education that Pretty Focus does as well. So I had a good, I learned, I mean, I'm sure Joni Simon is a familiar name. I read through all of her, I bought her book. I had watched her YouTube videos, and she's kind of the one that introduced me to the idea because I did want a side hustle, honestly, that I could teach my girls too, because we're
Oh, yeah.
home. And so I want them in the kitchen, and a lot of the pour shots, I use, they're my hand models. So it's been, it's been a long time, but I started with what I had. I didn't go out and go crazy and buy all of the equipment and things like that. And through the course, the Pretty Focused, I learned what I needed to have and then what I could get. I started with the macro filters, and then I learned I needed to get the lens. And so I saved up and I bought the lens. So I love that about the program is that you not only learn the things that you need to learn, but you learn like what you need as you go. And it just makes it even better. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad. Yeah, we try to start off pretty basic because you can start off with everything, and there are some people who are like all in and they get it all, and that's fine. But there are also we try to meet anybody where they're at and just say, you know what, you can start with these $15 macro filters because those shots are important. No, they're not great long-term solutions, but they'll help get you started.
yes,
And so,
exactly.
I think that was just my personal journey too of I propped up diaper boxes.
Yes.
Yeah, or I used diaper boxes to prop up my reflectors and everything, and I just started with what I had.
Yep.
And
That's what I love
so
about it. That's what I love about it. You can make something absolutely gorgeous from less than you think you need. I mean, you can have all the stuff, and it's fun to have all the stuff,
Mhm.
but it's cool. It's an art.
That's why it's like light is the most important, and then, making sure you have a camera, right? So, but good light is especially important. I think especially if you're working on like an entry level camera or a crop sensor camera, lighting is crucial for those. And sometimes natural light, like where you are, you don't have bright light like we have in
Mhm.
Arizona all the time.
Yes.
And so that will pose a challenge if you don't have consistent daylight.
Yes.
So artificial light. So when did you switch to artificial light, or when did you start using it?
I think it was like my third practice session when I spent so much time trying to correct white balance and chase the light. And like with my girls, it's like I get distracted or and it was just like, holy cow, this is so much headache. And so I thought Radonda did such an awesome job of teaching us, like, because I didn't know if I wanted continuous or strobe. And so like you just learn what you need and you get what you need, and it's so easy to integrate it. And now life is so
Yeah.
much easier with artificial light.
Yes, that's what we hear with natural light. Everybody's just like, oh my gosh, I can photograph any time of the day. This is
Yes.
amazing.
So great.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love that. I love it. Um, so so if we go back to your the when somebody told you about Pretty Focus, like what was it for you that made you say, yes, this is for me? Like what made you want to move forward with that and make
Yeah,
that investment?
I think number one, I think it was the community. And I was kind of like, everybody says they have community, but I was like, and once I get into the community of Pretty Focused, I was like, holy cow, this is a community. Like people are really supportive, and the coaches are absolutely phenomenal. They take so much time to teach you what you need to know. And the fact that there was work, they said that there was work, the bloggers are constantly looking for help with like photography. And so I have the full-time job. I would love to have my own business someday. However, reality is what it is. And I just, at this point, can start with a side gig. And so I'm trying to get that up and running. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what really got my attention is the flexibility of the side hustle. I can make it more if I need to or want to in the future, which I hope to, but right now I can start with what I can and just kind of grow it from there.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. How would you describe the Pretty Focused community? Because you're coming from other, other places, how would you describe, like, how would you compare and contrast the communities between different photography courses?
I think that this one is really focused on growth and personal growth as opposed to, that's a good question. I just feel like it's more responsive. It's more integrated. I feel like people actually like there's real people behind the screen, like sometimes you go on these other forums and it's like they'll like kind of comment or whatever, but there's no consistency there. And I think that the way the program is built with the practice sessions and then the portfolio, you really get to, number one, get to know the coaches a little bit better, and you get to kind of like infuse your personality. You just kind of have more of that connection, the human connection, which is really hard to find, especially like on Facebook or like other groups. It's really hard to kind of get that connection and that camaraderie. So yeah, I think other groups, I mean, I'm still in contact with other women that I've met through other programs.
Yeah.
Actually, one of them just reached out to me and was like, I cannot believe your growth from a photographer. Can you please just sit me down and like go over some of the points that you've learned? Because she's like, I cannot believe your photographs, like when we were in this other program to now. And I'm like, I mean, I still struggle with imposter syndrome. I don't think anything that I do is spectacular, but like, I'm just like, that's crazy amazing to hear that, like that's incredible. So I think that's a testament too to the program of like the actual learning and the growth that you apply.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, that's amazing.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm not saying that to like flatter myself or anything like that. It's just that other people in other programs have noticed the growth that happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay to toot your own horn. It's okay to say that.
If I've learned anything, it's humble is the way to go.
Yeah, no, you're okay because you're doing it. No. You're good. I love that. Whenever other people start to see that growth and then point it out, it feels really good. So I'm really, really happy for you. What were some things that surprised you about Pretty Focused?
Gosh, that's a good question. Man, I don't know. I think I keep going back to it, but just like how helpful the coaches were. I mean, I knew that they would be, but I mean, they're how much they pour into people. They they go through your session and they think of like ways to improve each and every photo if it needs it, or if it doesn't, they'll tell you. And so it's like, it's just incredible. I think the amount of like attention to detail and intention by the coaches is huge in this program.
Yeah. Was that overwhelming at all, getting feedback from people?
No, it was super, super helpful. In fact, now as I shoot, I'm like, hips to the board, right? Like make sure all these things are like playing in my head, like all these things that I never would have thought were, you just absorb it and you just like start hearing it when you're shooting, so it's really cool. It's really cool to have them pour into the students like they do.
Oh, I love that. I know. I love them too. They're amazing. They are so generous. They're some of the most generous people that I know. So
yes.
I love to hear accolades about the coaches because they're really special. And I think about the community too, is that it is so special. It is really unique. Whereas, it's so easy for people to put like, whenever you're buying a course and you're like looking at what you're going to be getting, so many of them say Facebook group, right? Like you get a Facebook group, but just because there's a Facebook group doesn't mean there's a community. And just because there's a Facebook group doesn't mean you're going to get the coaching and the connection that you actually need. And so I have just kind of taken a step back and seen and observed, trying as an outsider to do it as best as I can, what other people would see. And just, it's so cool to see how just over and over again resounding people just talk about just the community and how wonderful it is. So
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, other courses you can watch videos and you can learn,
mhm.
like the different composition elements. But then there's something that somebody is going through your work and saying, okay, I'm going to look at this photo and I'm going to apply my expertise. I'm going to help you grow. That's a whole
Mhm.
different level, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
a different experience. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So for those that are maybe they're in that place where they want a side hustle too. They're wanting something that's going to be flexible. Like, what would you tell them? Would you recommend Pretty Focus to them?
yes, I definitely would. Yes, I think so.
Um, who is it for? Like people who love
It
to cook,
can,
people who not like
yeah.
describe somebody who would be a good fit for Pretty Focused.
I think someone who wants to level up. I mean, I thought chicken could be cooked to 150. So like if I can be in this program and cook and like photograph, it can be for anybody. I mean, like anybody at all. So I think that like, I mean, I'm a horrible cook, but I'm a good baker. But
Mhm.
I learned both cooking skills and anyway. So I think that anybody that's looking to grow professionally, like grow a business, photography business, grow personally. I mean, there's so much grit involved in going through your portfolio. There's so much grit involved in like even just like working full time or doing this on the weekends or not working full time and doing it all the time. There's a lot of personal discipline that comes into that. So I think somebody that's looking to grow, that loves food, that sees brownies and is like, that's beautiful. Like if you can see inherent beauty in brownies, like I'm like, we're a special breed. And and I feel like that if you love like the aesthetics and you love just that kind of like art, or just wanting to challenge yourself in something new, I think that it's definitely grown me professionally and personally.
That's awesome. What are some of those things that you have seen your growth personally because of what you were doing, as you're learning photography?
Yeah, I think just the discipline involved and having to do that, like learning some of the feedback, but then also going back and with a humble approach and being like, okay, I need to watch this lesson again. I need to learn
Mhm.
that. But I think that has translated into other things. So it's crazy. Once you learn a new skill, you start seeing it everywhere. So I can look at a blog and I say, oh, I know that's a backlit photo and that they have so that it translates into other things and it kind of, the way you approach things in general, I think changes when you get a new
Yeah.
skill. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just really helped me round out some of the more creative things that I didn't know were there.
That's awesome. And so you love baking. So are you going to focus primarily on baked goods with clients?
Yes, yes, I think
That's good.
so. Yeah. I just
That's
wrote
good.
my first recipe and that was like, do I really love baking? But I still do. It was a love process. There's a lot of
Yeah.
baking science that I've been learning, but yeah, I love to bake. I think I'll probably focus the majority of my time on baking. I mean, some savory, but
Yeah. Are you going to like do any exclusives or do you just want to do recreations?
ideally, I would love to do recreations, but there's been some changes in the algorithm with Google. And so I've been trying to branch out and push myself again, the discipline of learning a new skill,
Mhm.
the exclusives. So I took the exclusives class. I just made my first recipe. With me, it's painfully slow because there's so much involved and working full time with the kids in the summer, it's been a long process, but I'm about to post it. I think I'm ready to get ready to do that. So I want to incorporate some exclusives as time allows, but
Yeah,
I'm still going to go hard after the recreations.
that's good. I think that is where the word flexible comes into play, right? Because you
Yep.
still want to be able to be with your, I mean, it's summer, right? So you
Right.
still want to be able to be there with your kids and not just, working constantly. And so
Yes.
finding that balance is good. So that's
Yes.
awesome. So is there any advice that you would have for people who are in Pretty Focus as they're making their way through? What would you say to them?
I think just keep going. Like give yourself grace because like nobody's good day one. I mean, everybody's good, but like nobody's perfect day one, right? So like there's a growth and you just have to be patient with yourself and know that eventually it'll click.
Mhm.
I had to watch the I had to watch a lesson on focal plane like 5 times. I mean, like, and I had gone through many courses, and I still was like, I don't know if I can
Good.
get this. And finally it clicked, you know,
Good.
and like, and so I think that just like giving yourself, being patient with yourself, giving yourself grace, knowing that it's going to come and you're going to like, you're going to grow. It's just going to be part of the process. And you'll look back and you'll be like, holy cow, that was really fun and difficult and challenging, but it was fun.
Yeah. And then eventually you'll have friends reach out and say, holy cow, your photography has gone bonkers, like,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
they're going to see that growth in you. And so that's what it's about, right? Like, why do it if you're not willing to grow or not open to growth? I think that you nailed that on the head. If somebody who wants to do this needs to be like open and ready to grow,
Yep. Yep.
and in ways that you won't even expect. Like you might have like this expectation of what it's going to be like. Yeah, I'm going to grow in my photography, but like you said, the discipline to go through it and to not give up and to follow through with it. And then, once you are on the business side of things, and you're a graduate, because when you graduate, you're not just like a grad, you are actually a business owner, and there's other things and other responsibilities that kind of go into play whenever it comes to that. And so I think that you really nailed that on the head. Being able to grow and being willing to grow is really important.
Yes, for sure. And sacrificing good for great. Like I think like you have to like just your standards have to be raised. Like you're always, I mean, that's one thing that I feel like we were held to really high standards, but in a not bad way. It's just that we know that we can do our best when we're going through portfolio and like,
Yeah.
like you are constantly able to just hold yourself to a high standard.
Yeah. Yeah. Reject good for great
That's
is
it.
one of our values.
Yeah,
And
reject good for great.
yeah, it's one of our values. And it's just just reject good for great, like why settle for good whenever you can be great? Because like we're here to serve other people, and we want our work to do well for them, because whenever our work does well for them, right, they are going to hire you back,
Yeah.
and so it just benefits everybody whenever you reject good for great. So
It's funny. I was doing a pour shot with my daughter, and I was like, I can do better than that, And my daughter's like, oh, I'm so tired of holding this. I'm so tired. I'm like, just so I shot and I showed her the one that finally like I was happy with, and we
yeah.
both were cheering. I mean, she got the whole. I mean, I was able to show her like the drive to like succeed in the best way. Like that's a good shot, but we can do better. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So I think our neighbors could hear us cheering. Like, we finally got that pour shot. That's awesome. So I don't know. I mean, it's just a fun experience to experience that growth.
Good. All right. I want to see a before and after. I want to see a good to great pour shot. You're going to have to share those pictures with me.
Yes.
I want to see that for sure. Well, Sara, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so great to hear all the things that you have learned and your advice for both people who are thinking about joining and those who are already in the midst of learning, and just that encouragement to keep going and to keep growing. And it was great. I can't wait to see how your business continues to grow and flourish, and watch you take it from a side hustle to full time.
Thank you.
So,
Excited.
all right. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.